Hi, my name is Yasmin. Thank you for joining me today. Today, I will be talking about Heidegger and the connection between his work at the university and his individual philosophical agenda. Who was Martin Heidegger, you may ask? Martin Heidegger was a German philosopher. He worked to achieve his metaphysical goals through the application of different phenomena. As far as his existential goal, he wished to understand the being itself, rather than the knowledge of it. Heidegger wished to look at what was not, seeking how to define nothing. It's not anything, and it's not something, yet it isn't the negation of something either. Heidegger proposed a ditch logic so that it would be possible to study nothing. Above all else, nothing is what produces in us a feeling of dread. This deep feeling of dread, Heidegger held, is the most fundamental human clue to the nature and reality of nothing. He said that nothing was what shaped being, which would give way to a transcendent reality. So Heidegger was just basically a huge hypocrite. So post-war, Heidegger attempted to say that he was against the Nazis and their attempts to politicize the university, but then he went off and issued a decree that applied racial cleansing to that same university. And racial cleansing was by terms of the Nazis. So it's a quote that I have from him, which said, "University study must again become a risk, not a refuge for the cowardly. Whoever does not survive the battle lies where he falls. The new courage must accustom itself for steadfastness, for the battle for the institutions where our leaders are educated will continue for a long time. It will be fought out for the strengths of the new Reich that Chancellor Hitler will bring to reality. A hard race with no thought of self must fight this battle, a race that lives from constant testing, and that remains directed towards the goal which it has committed itself. It is a battle to determine who shall be the teachers and leaders of this university." So, what is this? So with the passing of the decree, basically students who were military members, who were part of the SS, who were part of the SA, they received special treatment. So they got they received some kind of economic, financial aid or whatever for the university, whatever the equivalent was at that time. And then people who were Marxist or Jewish or weren't part of their little ideal Aryan white model did not have any option to receive that financial aid. So the ultimate goal of this was to get all students and faculty on board with the Nazis, and then those who weren't, who didn't even have the option to be part of that team just because of their race, screw them, whatever, just kind of throw them out. Okay, so, the question might be rising in your mind, why would he do this if he was actually against the Nazis, as he had previously stated? Well, Heidegger joined the Nazis right after Hitler gained power, and then 3 months later he became the rector of Freiburg University. So many people say that he did that in attempts to assert the autonomy of the university against the Nazi subordination of the sciences to the reactionary doctrines. But he really just wanted to get a Nazi gathering at the university that would serve the new Nazi regime. And so becoming rector was just a check off on the list, at which his list of goals. And ultimately, he just wanted to become Hitler's lead philosopher. So Hitler's sort of bro that, whenever Hitler needs philosophical advice, he'd be like, "Hey Heidegger, can I get some help?" And then Heidegger would be like, "Yeah, sure." So, so that was his goal, to get into that position. And that was kind of against what he had previously stated. And his reason for doing this was he would not only be in a position of power, but he would be in a position of power at which would cause that feeling of dread that I mentioned earlier. And as previously stated, that feeling of dread was the most fundamental human clue to the nature and reality of nothing. And so Heidegger, of course, he's a philosophy guy. His like goal is to answer questions. That's like what he strived to do all the time. Philosophy, you know. So he wanted to get the answer to that question. So to become rector of the university, and then to get up to that status of causing the feeling of dread, would allow him to figure out what nothing was. Okay, so here's the whole scheme. I'm going to lay it out for you. So, step 1, he becomes rector of the university. So he's just being a big kiss ass. He's like, I'm just going to like get in Hitler's good graces, and then Hitler's going to be like, oh, very good. And then let me be his leader of philosophical matters. So then I will be up with the big boys, you know, and I will be in that position of power and see firsthand how the feeling of dread is caused to those below, you know, and who aren't in that position. And so, you know, the Jews and the Marxists and all the other races that were considered to be inferior to the Aryans, they are receiving this feeling of dread, which is equated to the discovery of nothing. And so he would finally learn what nothing was. And the reality of nothing was his ultimate goal. And that is my conclusion. Thank you for joining me today.